Here with NSU coach Mike McConathy. Coach, tournament week is here. You play Texas A&M Corpus Christi Wednesday at 5 p.m. down in Katy, Texas. Just what's that feeling around this program now? This team finished strong the last week to assure itself a spot in that tournament. Just what's that mood been like the past couple of days?
Well, I think it's been great. I mean, it's been good to be back into the tournament, and you know, when you don't make the tournament, you have a greater appreciation for making the tournament. You know, some people say, well, you expect to make the tournament every year. Well, you know, we only have 8 teams in. I mean, that was one of the statements that was made by our league commissioner. That's one of the toughest tournaments to get into. You know, I mean, it is. It's tough to get into it. I mean, you've got 5 teams playing for basically, you know, 4 spots this time, and one team gets left out. And if we wouldn't have won on Saturday, we'd been the one that would have been left out. So for us to be able to take care of our business at home in a very, very rival game against University of New Orleans, and then be able to go on the road and beat a team that had beaten us here and beat them, you know, pretty handily, you know, that was a really positive thing. I think it said a lot about the team. I think it said a lot about focus. And all year long, we talk about this. We're 5-5 on the road, 6-4 at home. Now, 5-5. Granted, that's not what Stephen F. did, because they only lost 1 game. They won every game on the road. But still, to go 5-5 with a team with many young players and new players on the road is really, really good. So, you know, I feel real good about going on the road.
We talk so much about how you and the staff have had to kind of just meld the old and the new. What do you think that process is at this point in the season, where it feels like these last 2 or 3 games, this team has really figured something out?
Well, I just think that what's happened is, I mean, different rotations, different people giving you different things, moving the parts around, and sometimes it's not who starts, it's who finishes. You know, that's always the way I felt, but I feel like that we've made some adjustments that obviously have been pretty effective. Averaging over 95 points a game in the last 3 games is pretty good basketball. So, you know, against teams that, you know, length of UCA is difficult. UNO always does a great job defensively, and, you know, Southeastern, to be able to score what we scored against them, because traditionally, they're not going to be a high-scoring game, and that was kind of a weird game, and to say the least, since we had an hour and 45-minute delay. But, you know, they played really good basketball. So I think we built off of that. The last 27 minutes of the power outage shutdown to move forward against UNO and Central. So I think that we've you're playing some of your best basketball at this time of the year. That's what we always talk about. You want to be playing your best at March. You have to have the attitude that you're going into this thing to try to go win games. An attitude that I think is very, very important. I sent that to a dear friend of mine that's in coaching, that's going to the NJCAA National Tournament for the first time. And, hey, made a mistake a long time ago. Just tried to get to the national tournament. You got to get to the national tournament and try to win games. And by doing that, your perspective is different than just being satisfied with getting somewhere.
The no current NSU players played in this Southland Conference tournament. How do you I guess there's probably some advantages and disadvantages to that maybe. How do you kind of transfer that mindset to a group of guys that haven't been there before?
Well, here's the one thing you do. You look at your roster, and you look at Jamari Gregg, whose team was 26-4, didn't make it to the national tournament last year. Jairus Roberson, been to the NCAA tournament, the NJCAA tournament 2 years in a row. Other guys on the team, junior college players, Chudi Abile, been to the NJCAA national tournament. You look at that, they have experience in regional play, so that's the same thing as going to the Southland Conference tournament to play. So you look at it from that aspect. You look at Brian White, who played on the state championship team. You look at CJ Jones, who got to the championship game. You look at Larry Owens, who got to the state semifinal game. So you look at all those things. You look at Nikos Hugas, who has played in FIBA play against Team USA for the 19 and under and 20 and under. So you look at those things, they've played in big games. So I just think that you go play and you don't get hung up about that. Sure, we were trying to get there to extend what we've been doing. And, that was paramount. It was important for us to do. But still, at the time, it's not the situation to where you're playing uptight, you're playing loose and free.
92 points, 95 points, 100 points. Those are your last three offensive outputs. Of course, tempo certainly has something to do with that. But what has been kind of that shift a little bit where this offense is kind of taking it to the next level?
Wings running and point guards throwing the ball up the floor to guys, getting it in their hands to get open shots, with rim runners running to the goal and then spot up and then get into your offense and take a good shot. We're a lot better team when we get into the flow. If we get in a half-court game, we're not nearly as effective. That's just who we are. I'm not saying, and that's what our first opponent, Corpus Christi, I'm sure that it's going to be want to be in a half-court game, but I noticed they scored 85 against Houston Baptist, and Houston Baptist runs a lot. So, we can push the tempo on them. We're just going to have to do a good job of it. But a lot of that goes back to rebounding. The last game we out-rebounded them by 6. They're a very, very good rebounding team. They had 4 less turnovers than we had. We had 8 walking violations in that game against Corpus Christi. So if we can cut down our turnovers, and we have to do a better job of moving the ball, but I think we'll do that out of our running game to get the ball, to get more assists where players are cutting and they're freer and they get easy shots.
Like you mentioned, that first Corpus game tended to be a little slower, but it was also way back on January 2nd. Obviously, both teams are probably much different teams now. What do you take from that first matchup, if anything, being that it was so long ago?
Well, it's like the last 2 years previous to that, they beat us on 1-point shots at the buzzer, basically, to beat us. We got a rebound and lost the ball, threw it. Jimmy Ott threw it across to Brian White. That single game kept us going to the Southland Conference tournament a year ago. So you just gotta look at it for what it is. You just put that behind you, knowing that you didn't do everything you needed to do. So mindset-wise, I feel pretty good about going in the game. But Willis Wilson, I have ultimate respect for him. He is a great coach that figures it out as the year goes on, and he's done a remarkable job along with his staff in getting these players. And right now they've won 4 in a row. They're pounding the ball inside. They're shooting 45+% from the three-point line. They're just doing a great job.
You've had a lot of success in March when it comes to the Southland Conference tournament. Some of that is that depth. Obviously, when you start playing on Wednesday, you certainly want to play through Saturday, so you very well could be playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. What's been some of those keys to your tournament success?
Well, our tournament success early on, when we had a regular tournament where we just played 1 through 8, and there wasn't any reseeding or there wasn't a bunch of buys. We just were able to go in, and we went on the road the first 2 years and beat 2 really good teams, UTA, who had beaten us by 35 points here, and then the next year we go down to Nichols and beat a really, really good team down there in the first round, and then we moved from there to the Gold Dome and the CenturyTel Center and beating, the best of the best there, and we're able to do that. But I think it goes back to continuing to improve in March, late February and March, to get yourself tournament ready for their mindset of understanding that there's nothing holding you back. You just go play. One of the things I always like to tell our kids in recruiting and going to the tournament is you can walk in there and look on that wall, and there's 3 groups that have gone to the NCAA tournament. There's a question mark that says who will be next. Well, we've been, and that's huge, just like Sam Houston's been before, Stephen F. Austin's been before, ACU's been before. So we have been. So from a coaching perspective, I can talk about that we've done these things, and this is what we've had to do to go play. And that's a big deal for us. That's why we were in so many. We've been in, I think, out of 11 tournaments that we were in, we've been in the finals 7 times and won it 3 times. And most of those were prior to the bye set up. The first year the bye set up, we were second seed behind Stephen F. Austin. Ended up beating Stephen F. Austin that year in the finals in 2013. So, you just have to go play. Our Lady Demons under Brooke Store and Scott Store are in the exact same place, except they were 6 seed and we're 5 seed going into there, and they won 4 games with Janelle Perez at the point, and they did an outstanding job and won and went through it. I texted with her Saturday night and said I wanted to know if she could send me the formula.
Chudier Bao, second team all conference that's going to come out today. It seems like he's kind of gotten back in the flow of things since his return. What has his impact been on this team overall?
Well, I mean, when you think about his game against UCA at 17 points and 15 rebounds. Wow, 15 rebounds, remarkable. He shoots about 86% conference play from the free throw line. In that game alone, he was 9 for 10 from the free throw line, only 3 for 6 from the floor, 2 for 5 from the three, shooting right at 40% from the three. He's makes shots. The other day, or I shouldn't say the other day, against UCA, he was remarkable on the boards and rebounded with a vengeance. And if we're going to win, we're going to have everybody rebounding with a vengeance. In the last game against Corpus Christi, Nikos Ugas had 12 points and 16 rebounds. Remarkable effort. So we need that same kind of effort. So, got to get good big games out of them. And then with Jairus and Trenton Mastner, who's played really well of late, along with C.J. Jones and Brian White, they've kind of piecemealed the point guard spot and done a good job. Turnovers are down there, and we're doing a lot better taking care of the ball. So that's a very positive thing.
Coach Mike, thank you very much.